Anakin and Ahsoka were a dynamic master and padawan pairing during the Clone Wars. Although Anakin was initially opposed to the idea of having a padawan, he grew fond of Ahsoka and treated her like a little sister. But instead of being in love with Padme, what if Anakin was in love with Ahsoka? How would this change Star Wars history? As you're about to see, a lot changes. We're going to assume that Anakin and Padme are attracted to each other, but never pursue any kind of relationship, rather remain as close friends. This allows for Anakin to become attached to Ahsoka without feeling any guilt. As the Clone Wars progress, Anakin is not as protective with Ahsoka as he is with Padme in canon, as he knows that Ahsoka has been trained in the Jedi arts. However, whenever she gets hurt or goes missing, he feels a greater sense of failure, and that he should have done more not only as her master, but partner. With the bombing of the temple, the Jedi Council call into question Ahsoka's credibility, much to the anger of Anakin. But here is where events start to change. After Barriss confesses to her crime, Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order, but instead of Anakin pleading with Ahsoka to stay, he leaves with her. Together, they temporarily stay in Padme's apartment, as she is happy for the couple to stay. Back at the Jedi Council chambers, there is a state of turmoil. Many are beginning to question the recent decisions made by the Jedi Council, which have led to Anakin and Ahsoka leaving. Whilst Mace Windu and Saesee Tiin dismiss these as coincidences, Yoda in particular recognises that mistakes have been made. Meanwhile, Darth Sidious needs to change his plans. He had originally planned for Anakin to become the successor to Dooku, but this could no longer happen as Anakin was a less vulnerable target. Nor could he get rid of Ahsoka too easily, given Anakin was practically attached to her hip, and given her strength with the Force. Thus for now, he would have to keep Dooku. This would change, however, with the duel aboard Grievous's ship. Of course, one might say that in canon Sidious set up the duel to test Anakin's powers. However, given that Dooku wishes to eventually overthrow Sidious, and Grievous is more under his control, the attack over Coruscant would still likely occur. Instead of facing Anakin and Obi-Wan, this time, Dooku faces Yoda and Obi-Wan. The reason for sending Yoda is that he would know Dooku's combat style the best, given Yoda was Dooku's master. The duo would eventually subdue Dooku, and this time Palpatine would remain silent, as there was no chance of goading Yoda into killing Dooku. With Master Yoda aboard, they are more patient, and do not run into the ray shields, meaning that they do not encounter Grievous, and the quartet make their way smoothly to Coruscant. Once on trial, Dooku does not reveal the true identity of Palpatine, as either way, he would be punished for his crimes. Meanwhile, Anakin and Ahsoka are living a peaceful life. Along the way, they have numerous encounters with the Force, whether that be with holocrons or Force users, all the while gaining an understanding of the Force that the narrow-minded Jedi Order had resisted. Eventually, the Force would move them to the planet of Korriban. The duo would land upon the planet, curious as to why the Force had brought them here. The Sith ghosts would reveal that the duo still had a large role to play in the war, regardless of them leaving the Jedi Order, as well as provide them with further ancient Sith secrets. The duo would end up making their way back to Mandalore, where Captain Rex was based. As Rex greeted them, Ahsoka couldn't help but notice a dent on Rex's skull. Rex pointed out how he had removed a chip, which prevented the Chancellor from having control over the clones. For the duo, it was as if a light bulb had turned on inside their brain. Chancellor Palpatine was the person they had been looking for. Anakin's eyes flickered yellow as he thought about the senile man who he had once trusted. This was the person who had nearly ruined Ahsoka's life. He knew what they had to do. With a nod to Rex, the duo zoomed off to Coruscant. Knowing that if they went to the Jedi Council, Sidious could sense this and escape, they went straight to the Chancellor's office. Seeing Palpatine converse with a hooded figure, they both turned around the sight of 3 lightsabers igniting. Palpatine and a Zabrak they recognised as Maul turned around and ignited their lightsabers. Maul was expecting Kenobi, but these two would have to do for now. This was a battle for the galaxy. Palpatine immediately raised his other hand and sent a wave of Force lightning at Ahsoka, hoping to eliminate the weaker Force user first. Much to Palpatine's surprise, however, Ahsoka used her newfound force powers to block the lightning with her Shoto blade, and used her primary blade to block Maul. Anakin, sensing a temporary weakness in an overly aggressive Maul, made a sharp kick to Maul's stomach, sending him backwards. Sidious had had enough of the Togruta, and ignited his second blade, attacking Ahsoka at blistering speed. Anakin knew Ahsoka could not defend for much longer, and turning his attention away from Maul, started to block Sidious's attacks, as Ahsoka switched on to Maul. Sidious was impressed by Anakin's lightsaber abilities. It was a shame that he could not be his apprentice. Before Palpatine could attempt a killing strike into Anakin's stomach, the door swung open, revealing another hooded figure. Removing his hood, it revealed Count Dooku. Sidious cackled as he saw a flicker of annoyance from Anakin and Ahsoka. It had been he who had broken out Dooku from prison, and the Jedi must pay for giving mercy to their fallen member. Anakin and Ahsoka were beginning to tire, and they knew they needed more help. With a silent acknowledgement to each other, the duo used their lightsabers to shatter the office window, and descend to the depths of Coruscant, landing smoothly on a ship, as the echoes of Palpatine's screams of annoyance rang across the city. As Palpatine's face creased with his fury, Dooku and Maul were glaring at each other with intense hatred. Dooku felt betrayed as if he had been replaced, whereas Maul felt betrayed by Sidious, and felt as if Dooku was his competition. Both conflicted about what to do, the duo lunged at Sidious, whom had been expecting the attack. Sidious cackled as he easily fended off Dooku and Maul. He had thought Dooku was wise, but clearly he was mistaken. Given Maul and Dooku's hatred for each other, they failed to function as a duo, and Sidious separated them easily. He first lured Maul into a confined space, which meant that Maul couldn't take advantage of his acrobatics, and Sidious disarmed him before releasing force lightning into the body of the Zabrak. Dooku quickly evaluated the situation. Sending his own jolt of force lightning at Maul, he plunged his red lightsaber through the chest of the unarmed Zabrak. As Sidious commended Dooku, he could sense Dooku was shielding his emotions, to which Dooku told him that he had to make it look convincing to prevent Maul from escaping. Although Sidious could sense that this was the truth, Sidious couldn't help but notice something was amiss. Meanwhile, Anakin and Ahsoka feel a slight disturbance in the Force with the demise of Maul. They know they have little time left for the galaxy to not fall into the hands of Sidious. Although they thought they would never return to the Jedi Temple, the Force guides them to the Jedi Council chambers, where they are discussing the disappearance of Dooku. The Jedi Council is surprised to see Anakin and Ahsoka standing in front of them once again. They looked older and wiser. They could feel their additional power in waves. The duo reveal all they had learned from their time away from the Jedi Order, in the hopes the Jedi would help them in their effort. Although they didn't want to do it, there are no other alternatives. Dispatching Quinlan Vos, as well as other criminal investigators to track down the location of the Sith Lords, Anakin and Ahsoka meet up with Padme to discuss any political developments and present a case to be used against Palpatine. They know their case would have to be watertight were they to crush the corruption in the Senate. Meanwhile, Sidious and Dooku have ventured off to Kamino, discussing plans to advance the intelligence of the clones. As they are guided around the facility, Sidious senses something is amiss. Going to the nearest scientist, Sidious snatches the datapad from his hand and scrolls through the details of the latest clone. Their loyalty was not to the Chancellor, but to a mysterious visitor. Sidious let out a primal scream. Sidious immediately force-choked the scientist, breaking his neck, horrifying the surrounding guards and scientists. As they attempted to escape, Sidious vaporizes them all with torrents of force lightning, as Dooku looks on with an amused smirk on his face. Sidious then attempted to override the system, but he was too late. Had that rogue clone 5 somehow survived? Or had he passed on the word to another clone? Whoever it was, they would be punished adequately, as the smirk returned to Sidious once more. In the meantime, Anakin and Ahsoka are in the meditation chambers, opening another holocron they had found on their travels, when they felt a surge in the Force. Recognizing Sidious, they were confused as to what caused such a reaction. Then it clicked for the duo. The Sith ghosts on Korriban had brought them to Rex for a reason. Quickly contacting Rex, he told them how he had learnt from Fives how to override the programs on all the clones, and taken his own trip to Kamino to do so. Although Anakin and Ahsoka are pleasantly surprised of that issue being taken care of, they knew that Sidious would quickly hunt down Rex. Ending their call with their friend, they made their way towards a room of 1,000 fountains to contemplate this new information, but to their surprise, Master Yoda was waiting. In his hand was another holocron, this one containing a recording of the prophecy of the Chosen One, glowing a crimson red. Opening the holocron, the prophecy had changed. It was no longer referring to just the Chosen One, but the Chosen One and his Padawan. Yoda had no doubt as to what was going on. As Anakin prepared himself for an earful about attachments from the Grand Master, to his surprise, Yoda declared for a need to change the Jedi Code, as he realised that the lack of attachments had led to many of the recent failures of the Jedi Order. And with that symbol of hope that maybe they could one day return to the Jedi Order, Anakin and Ahsoka sped off to Mandalore. Landing on Mandalore, they are relieved to see Rex alive, as they quickly warn him of the potential threat on his life. Quickly entering the battle, they easily dispatched of the droids, sensing this was too easy, as if it were a trap. Just as they were about to celebrate a victory with the clones, a dark shadow loomed overhead, like an angry cloud, as a shuttle descended upon the battlefield. As the shuttle landed, Anakin and Ahsoka gripped their lightsabers tighter. Out of the entrance stepped out Darth Sidious and General Grievous, with Dooku tailing them both. The clones quickly fired at the trio, but this was futile, as they easily deflected the blast with their lightsabers. Dooku was the first to attack Anakin and Ahsoka, lunging at the Togruta with his trademark Makashi style. The Count, however, did not know of Ahsoka's newfound powers, as she used her new knowledge to cast a Force whirlwind, leaving Dooku unable to attack her. Sidious is stunned at seeing his apprentice being defeated so easily, so together with Grievous, attempt to best the duo in lightsaber combat. Having had experience with the cyborg, Ahsoka switched on to Grievous, whilst Anakin dealt with Sidious. Despite this experience, Ahsoka was still astounded by the speed of the cyborg's lightsabers, as she attempted to block his attacks. Anakin, meanwhile, was tapping into his dark side powers, using his gem soul to try and overpower Sidious. The Sith Lord was equal to it, however, and seeing Ahsoka distracted, used his left hand to send a bolt of force lightning at her, flinging her to the feet of the clones. Anakin's eyes glow yellow as he sees Ahsoka on the ground. Now fully immersed in the Force, he lifts both Darth Sidious and Grievous off of the ground, and crushes their organs with all of his might. As their bodies drop to the ground, the clones take care of Dooku, who is barely alive, as well as the bodies of Grievous and Sidious. Anakin rushes over to Ahsoka, fearing for her life. Checking for her pulse, he finds that she is breathing slowly, as Anakin collapses to the ground in relief. He knew they had a future together. That is it for this mini-series of What If Anakin and Ahsoka Fell in Love. Please like this video and subscribe for more what ifs, and as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.